Rado, Namare, yo, everyone. Hello, Don Marlon. Hello, Yoav, Cold End. So we'll open we'll open up the stage for some people that want to come on at the end, like a standard call. This is a community call, but we're going to do a bit of a presentation at the beginning just to talk about where we are and the efforts that Opentensor and the general Bittensor community have been making behind the scenes over the last 2 weeks. I mean, we missed last week specifically, so we could have more of a call this time around. Um, yo. All right, well let's get started. We missed last week specifically, so we could have more of a call this time around. I'm gonna go live here. Give me a thumbs up if you can see that. Um, Garrett, can you unmute yourself and just let me know if you can see my screen?
Yeah, we can see
All
it.
good. And then also, can you see these slides?
I'm only seeing the clawback effort slide when you
Okay.
go through the slides. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just start that again. Um, okay, let's go back to the beginning. Don't
There we
look,
go.
guys. The presentation. Lovely. You can see the slides changing through, right?
Yep.
Okay, good. And you can hear my voice. Let's go.
Yep. We're good.
All right. Well, everyone, thank you for coming to the call. So today we're going to talk about three main efforts that Opentensor and the community have been going through since the July 2nd attack. And this is not all we've been doing. We've been doing obviously the normal technical changes, and we're going to talk about some of them on this call, specifically those that pertain to our effort to secure the chain, decentralized Bittensor, and give people the technologies they need to protect themselves. We're going to talk about the clawback efforts that are ongoing to get Tau back from exchanges and the success of those efforts. And then finally, we're going to end with talking about how we're going to attempt to restitute people that were affected by the attack, specifically um, the attack that shocked us all. I think that you know, I think we made as a community a pretty good um, return after it was a really shocking moment for us. But we stayed up all night, and for about a week, we pushed hard to make sure that people are not affected. And I want to just make a call out to the Opentensor team that worked super hard to make sure that everything went smoothly, and indeed it did go very smoothly. So as far as we know, there's not been any new funds that have been lost, and people upgraded their Pi. People upgraded their subnets. They changed the Bittensor versions. They moved as quickly as they could, and it's been a major success. I think that we're out of the woods here, um, and and there's great things to come. So, but before I jump into these three things, I want to just talk about some good news. Um, and the good news is that Bittensor is coming together in a major way to help protect individuals and victims of this attack. And these are five organizations which have uh, agreed to contribute to help restitute individuals. And Opentensor is playing a major role here. And as an organization, will be contributing a substantial amount of funds to make sure that people are fine. And and so like we got you. Um, Specifically those that were affected. We're going to find out how you were affected. We're going to make sure that we're obviously careful about um, liability and where funds come from and who gets funds and things like this. So it's definitely quite a tiresome endeavor, but the positive side here is that amongst just these five and some other individual contributors, anonymous contributors, we think we have the Tau to majorly and meaningfully make people whole as a community, as a network, uh, and protect ourselves. um, from these attackers. So that's really good news. But before we talk specifically about how we're going to organize these funds as a community, some technical efforts behind the scene that um, maybe people saw the announcement that came out, but the major one is obviously ledger support. This is staged on DevNet this week. We have a chain running. We have you can use a ledger with a DevNet, and we're going to be pushing this to testnet and main as soon as we can, so that uh, not only are we responding to the victims, we're building the technological solutions to make sure this kind of thing never happens again, and that Bittensor becomes the most secure technology stack for cryptocurrency moving forward. So that's really exciting. That's Voon right there. He was spearheading this at OTF, making sure that we can get ledger support. It's a lot of work, actually. Turns out that getting this type of support is not easy. I thought it would be something that would take, a couple weeks years ago, but it's actually taken years for us to upgrade the technology to this point. So this is a big deal, and I will put a little asterisk here. One of the reasons why it's so difficult is that it's going to require an upgrade to what's called the metadata of the Finney network, which will mean that everyone is required to use a new version of Pi substrate interface when talking to the chain, setting weights, doing any operations. And so, if when we do this upgrade, there'll be a lot of warning before we do this upgrade, so that you can upgrade those specific packages to work with the new metadata of the chain. But if you don't upgrade, it might cause some issues with your miners and validators. So be aware of that, and pay attention to the announcements coming up. But that's not it. We've been really pushing super hard behind the scenes. In fact, I would say that this event has invigorated a lot of the I know people in this community, but specifically the engineers at Opentensor, including myself. We've been coding and having a pretty awesome time pushing features that are all in DevNet. So we have ledger support. We have child keys on DevNet. That's a security upgrade. We've also secured the hot and cold key swap. There's a new version of that that we think is even safer and better for the chain. There's a chain bloat upgrade that's going to reduce the chain bloat by 1,000x, the speed at which the chain is increasing in size. And also, we're moving away from delegates.json. So we're just slowly wrapping up every piece of surface area that could be an attack vector. We're adding technological innovations to the chain to make sure that people are secure. And this is both for security and also for decentralization of the chain. Opentensor doesn't want to do this forever, and our intention is to disappear and take all of the technologies that we're building and distribute them out into the open source. So I want to talk about that a little bit. We are going to break apart a good part of the Bittensor API into sub-repos for greater security, longevity, and also modularization, to allow for all sorts of different types of Bittensor to exist and work with our ecosystem. It doesn't need to just be in Python. We can have Rust SDKs. We're working on a Rust SDK already. We're pulling out the BT CLI, and we're allowing other teams to build versions of the CLI in a safe way on top of our technology stack. So every time something happens in our ecosystem which is negative, I think that we respond, and we always break into a new fields of potential, new worlds of potential. And this is one of the things that we're really excited about, how Opentensor is going to be moving towards giving more to the community and making things even more open source and getting more contributions from like the Church of Rao and teams like Manifold and even within inside of our organization, decoupling things and allowing us to move quickly. So this is something that's massive. It doesn't really have anything to do with restitution, but we'll get to that right after this slide. So we have been moving as quickly as we can. These kind of things are temporal. We do ask for people's patience, but we're working with Secret Service and the FBI, multiple litigation firms, organizations, two crypto investigation firms, to see how quickly we can ensure that the funds that were lost on July 2nd can be returned and restituted for people towards people that were affected. And I don't want to speak too soon, but we've had some major successes. So 33% of the tokens that were hacked, the Tau that was lost, we have verbal agreements that this will be totally returned to victims, and that's a massively positive thing. And that's just 33% of the July 2nd attack. Additionally, we have locked 50%, more than 50% of the Tau on Mexi and KuCoin. We think maybe even more is potentially accessible, and our lawyers are working as hard as we can, as fast as we can, to claw that back and make it accessible to what we'll talk about in a second after these slides. We're also working with best-in-class investigators to claw back even more funds from those that were responsible for the attacks that we saw, and so that's going to take time. And so we do ask for people's patience here, because this is not moving at the speed of Bittensor, which moves a mile a minute. These kind of things take legal, corporate, institutional, tectonic changes. They have to be done right. They have to be done fairly. They have to be done with lawyers. And so give us time. However, our goal is really to do this differently and better than similar hacks in the ecosystem that we exist in. Mt. Gox, it took 10 years. Ethereum required a full fork of their chain. We're learning from both of those events, and we want to do this better. We want to get people's funds back as quickly as possible, not 10 years. We want to do this in a decentralized way, no chain forks. And we want to lean into how can we do this in a way that's Bittensory, let's say. How can we do this in a way that leans into decentralization, leans into community effort? That's why we're asking for people to actually contribute and participate in these efforts and help us, all the people that are involved, the community, Bittensor, to protect ourselves, to help our members, to be more than just libertines. We can actually use our freedom in this new domain that we've created, that we've existed in. We can use that liberty to do really good things and showcase to the world that we care about people and we care about what we're building. So anyways, how are we going to do this? What's our plan from Opentensor? And now, this is just our plan. We're just one member of this network. We're just one group. We're trying our best. You can participate with us if you want. You can do your own thing. That's the power of decentralization. But what are we organizing? So our goal for restitution is actually to do the majority of it on our chain, to do it in a decentralized way, to allow people to contribute to the restitution effort in an anonymous way, in a crypto Web3 way. So we're going to initialize an on-chain restitution mechanism in the near future. And that'll be stage one. And between stage one and stage two, we're going to actually collect contributions from these parties and members of this community that want to help Bittensor do right for its community members. I'm one of those people. Shib's one of those people. Opentensor is one of those people. Macrocosmos is one of those groups. Rizzo has generously offered to contribute here. We have a number of teams that feel like they are connected to our struggle and want to prove to the world that we can do this as a community. And I think that's the best way that we can do this. It's all of us that can make this happen effectively and best restitute the individuals that were hurt. So between stage one and stage two, we'll collect contributions. We're not giving giving dates here because obviously we want to leave things fairly vague while we fill in the details. So we'll collect contributions from potentially you, certainly me. And in stage two, as soon as we have collected the correct amount of funds that we need to restitute the individuals that can provably show that they were victims of the attack, we'll restitute them immediately. And we hope this period is many, many, many magnitudes shorter than. In fact, we know that this period will be many magnitudes shorter than something like Mount Dox, because Opentensor and myself and the individuals in the community have made verbal commitments to make sure this happens, and we will make it happen. And those that contribute between stage 2 and stage 3 will have opportunity to be proportionally reimbursed by proportionally reimbursed from the clawed-back tau from exchanges, which we think is significant. In this way, not only can we get everybody back in a major way, we can do it as a community. We can do it in a way that maybe even gets more funds out of the endeavor than were lost. We're not sure. We can't say that would happen for sure. But we know that this will happen. And, I'm putting my time and effort behind this to make sure that everyone's all right in the end. So, yeah, guys, that's the end of the presentation. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of questions from people in the audience. Feel free to come up on stage and speak to us, ask them in the channel. We'll answer them as best we can. And yeah, thanks everyone for listening. All right, guys. Woohoo. Yeah, Rizzo. It's indeed. Yeah, he was one of the first people to reach out and say, hey, look, I want to help. Fucking hero. Great. Okay, wow, there's a lot of questions here. Why don't I, Keith has never liked the chain bloat. Yeah, indeed, nor do I. It costs us substantially at Opentensor. So some people say they couldn't hear me. I'm just scrolling up here. There's a lot in here. Oh my gosh. Okay. So, la-di-da-di-da. Instant cold key swap or still delayed swap. So we're going to do cold key swap. It'll be instant. We've invested heavily in testing that. It's on DevNet. It'll be on mainnet. How is the instant cold key swap good for security? We don't really believe that the slow one is that much better for security. I think it's a pretty dangerous and unwieldy mechanism in the first place. It was just for what we needed at that particular time. So what legal right does OTF have to block funds and exchanges? Just to make this very clear, Opentensor is working in conjunction with a number of individuals. This becomes much bigger than OTF. It's Bittensor itself, and it's us working with people, contributing information as best we can, trying to get on phone calls, collecting data. But we're not actually the ones that are spearheading. We're one of the parties that are spearheading this. We don't have the right to block any funds on exchanges, and that's why this takes time to do right. We have to build partnerships and get law enforcement involved, Secret Service, FBI, this kind of thing, to lock down these funds. But I'll just say, thanks to some very fast-moving individuals. I'll call out I'll call out Mog and Datura for literally moving in hours to communicate with exchanges, and that was essential for us to make the right to position ourselves to get these clawbacks in time. So we're hopeful. I don't want to promise anything. It's solely up to the exchange. We help by obviously pushing with our litigators and so forth. Okay, so let's go down. More questions. La-di-da-di-da. Okay, half of them abuse. Okay, and blah, blah. So it sounds around 90% of stolen tau recoverable across Mexi, KuCoin, TauBridge, etc. I'm going to be reluctant to say 90% because, like I said, it potentially recoverable on Mexi and KuCoin. TauBridge is the one that have caught it, and we're working closely with them. You can speak with them about those funds that specifically came from the July 2nd attack. And I don't want to say that they're recoverable. I've never been through the process of actually clawing back funds from these exchanges. I don't know how difficult they are, which jurisdictions. It's a tedious and tiresome process. So this is the patient side of things, and this is why stage 3 will take the longest amount of time, while stage 2 is what we're going to try to move towards being the fastest, and that's what we're putting our weight behind. Okay. Garrett, do you have any questions for me? Do you see any in the chat that were not answered?
I'm looking right now. I think we got most of them.
Okay, let's get some people on stage. I'm cool with that. Hey, Ref.
Hey,
Hi. Hey, Easy Trades.
I'm about the instant and scheduled cold key swap.
Okay, maybe
You
we'll
probably expected that.
Yeah, can we hold that till the end and just specifically speak about the restitution and clawback
Okay.
and technical changes, and then we'll talk about the cold key swap in a moment. Easy Trades, did you have a question for us?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think everybody appreciates the transparency and the work everybody's doing behind the scenes to give people their money back. I know I've been involved with similar types of situations with clawbacks, and it can be a headache. So appreciate it. My question is kind of off topic on this subject though. So if you want to stay on topic first, I can ask it later. It's up to you.
Yeah, I mean, just to your first point. Yeah, it's extremely difficult. We're really trying our best to act in good faith and help people. And these things are difficult. Like people get very frightened. People get very scared. People get very aggressive. And the reason why we're trying to be transparent and up here on the call and talking about these things is because it doesn't need to be like that. We as a community were attacked. We as a community can respond. We all care about Bittensor. We have that in common. And I think that there's pretty goodwill, even in this community for people that were hurt. I think there's some really strong goodwill here that we can lean on and do the right thing for everyone involved. So yeah, and maybe Yoav has some points. You've come up on the stage here, Yoav.
Hey, thanks, Jake. Yeah, I wanted to jump in and perhaps offer my own perspective and why I'm actually contributing to this. And let me assure you that it's not because I'm a great guy, because those of you who know me know that I'm not. But it's a little bit of a cliche, but sometimes cliches are they're true because they're used so often, or because they're true, they're used so often, which is, we fail as individuals and we succeed as a team, right? And the behavior, when I think about myself, the behavior of contributing to the restitution effort, economically speaking, it doesn't make sense, right? Because it doesn't maximize my profits. But I believe that for the system and the ecosystem at large to kind of maintain its integrity, this restitution actually is very much needed. In essence, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, right? Again, it's another cliche, but and some of the parts of the community that were affected by this are actually great builders and holders and believers. And if I take I notice in myself two sides. There is the cynical side, and if I take that side and say, well, supporting those that were affected by this from an economic standpoint actually is a good long-term investment, because the value of Tau is determined directly by how much value the ecosystem is able to generate, which is tightly related to the value and the quality of our builders, right? And so if that's the case, well, then contributing to the restitution effort makes a lot of sense, because that will create value, because it will keep all the great builders in the ecosystem, and they're jazzed and they're happy to build, and they feel like, hey, we're supported by the community. And then there's other.
So you're donating selfishly, is what you're saying.
No, so exactly, yeah. So there's the other side, which is kind of more of my personal perspective, which is I put myself in the shoes of those that were affected by it and ask myself, well, how would I want to be treated if I was affected by this attack? And I would want the community to pull together and support me when I was down and out. Uh, and I'd go on a limb and say that a lot of the people on this call and a lot of people in the community, they would like to be treated this way as well. Now, by no means this is not an investment advice, so to speak, or a contribution advice, but this is kind of like my own internal calculation for why I do that, and kind of like what guides me making this decision. I hope that it's helpful.
It is. Thanks, Yoav. I agree, and I'm in the same place. That's always been, when we were early miners and we were donating substantially to development efforts to make this project go. Same thing, right? We donated substantial amounts of DAO to make this thing work, and it's paid off so much. So, yeah, more on how people can do that if they want to going forward. Should we answer some more of the questions here in the chat? So, like, a lot of people are asking, like, "Hey, has this exploit impacted my view on DTAO and how it should be rolled out?" I mean, like, my perspective is like, Dynamic Tau is part and parcel with the decentralization of this project, and it is the decentralization of this project which will be the final shield against anything that happens, whether it's governmental or black hat. For us to distribute ourselves and work together, but with a common protocol, that's the vision. That's what makes us strong. That's what's going to make us exceedingly fast and move exponentially. DTAO is absolutely part of that, and we're working on this. It's effectively ready to be staged in many ways. We're finishing touches. We're doing that right. So I'm not going to give you an ETA because I don't want to force it. But like, if you trust me, we're moving as quickly as possible while keeping track of how things will affect the community, how we can do this in a decentralized way, how we can build the meta structures and the meta systems to unlock new forms of energy, new horizons for the protocol, just like subnets did. Essex says, does OTF plan to expand the 45 subnets limit? I don't have a clear answer to that. We'd have to do a bit of an analysis of how we are. Are people asking for that? I think that we have to sit down and look at how that's playing out right now. Yeah. Is there any way for subnet lock interval to be brought back down to 2 days like it was in February? Potentially. Longer form answer I think is required, and a little bit of analysis. I wasn't prepared for that specific question. Okay, well, there's not that many questions in the chat. I think that's positive. I think people feel fulfilled for that reason, with the exception of DTAO. What will happen with the locked TAO used for subnet registration when DTAO comes out? Okay, there's another DTAO question. So there are various mechanisms for how we can use the locked TAO. And if you read the original paper, it was automatically converted to the subnet token. We're looking at various ways of doing that, and even more, potentially ways for people to design their own mechanisms on top of Bittensor that solve that problem. A little bit of a sneak peek there. So, Ref, I mean, there's some quiet in the chat, which is positive. Would you like to ask your questions? Same with you, Easy Trade.
Right. There are 5 things that are valuable to a cold key. One is the funds that you can have on your cold key, and that's obvious. If your cold key gets compromised, someone transfers all the money out. But there are 4 more things that are valuable to the cold key. One is tenet seed that can be associated with one of the hotkeys, and then if you own the cold key, you can change over that hotkey, so you can take over the tenet seed. But there is also the miner slots on that given cold key. You can have UIDs on different subnets. You've paid registration and you can have access to those. So you, as a cold key owner, you are able to swap those hotkeys and
Mhm.
and grasp this value, these slots,
Yes.
which have like very numerical value. You can check how much the registration cost. But there is also the validator ownership, so all the delegates
And the subnet.
and the subnet as well.
Mhm.
And those currently cannot be stolen, right? They're yours. And if, let's say, OTF cold key gets compromised, I assume there is not much money on that cold key itself, but let's say, well, you have a very valuable validator slot. So someone can try to misuse it and set bad weights. If push comes to shove, you can enable those scheduled cold key swap. Then the Senate members can decide that you, Const, are the rightful owner, right? The guy on Discord that they associate with the validator. You are the rightful owner. You say, okay, my new cold key is this. We swap it securely. Yeah. So the scheduled cold key swap can be used in a decentralized manner to take
Mhm.
back the stolen cold key with the
Right.
subnet and with the validator. But if the instant cold key swap is deployed, then the first thing the attacker will do is he will instantly swap the cold key, and then there is nothing we can do anymore.
Right. This is a good point, Ref. I agree with you, actually. So, yeah, you have my agreement that the cold key swap should be scheduled and delayed.
I would set it for like 5 days or something like that, so that if we have a subnet owners like we do, this happens, they go to a week-long conference, then they don't take their ledgers and everything with them to the hotel room and stuff like that. It's dangerous. So if it's long, that's fine. Formalized Tensor has voiced one concern though. If someone takes over the cold key, they could try to dissolve the subnet, to destroy it. Let's say it's another subnet owner that is trying to destroy your subnet so that his subnet gets more emissions or whatever, right? Okay. And so this one should also be scheduled so that you cannot instantly dissolve a subnet. I don't think anyone will cry and say, I had the ability to instantly dissolve a subnet and now I have to wait a couple of days. I don't think anyone will rewind, and this will increase the security. You will no longer fear that your the value that you've built can disappear. The building a subnet, getting everyone to validate it, getting everyone to mine it. This is months of your life, not just you, but all of the team. Yeah. So you have years of life invested in this one little thing.
I hear you, Ref. I think you're totally right. I think that those kind of operations should be put on delay, and potentially even we should have ways for people to get notifications if their cold keys are.
So I think this is very easy. We can make a bot. So I will contribute a bot. Okay, let's make a channel on which if any one cold key associated with any subnet or any validator or anything like that gets scheduled for a swap, a bot will post a message. Everybody will see it.
That's easy. But Ref, you can go even farther with things like the proxy palette. I wish we could get Voon up on the stage so he can talk about it. You can have, for one, you can secure your cold key so that for things like setting weights on the root network, you don't even need the cold key. You can have a proxy that allows you to do that. You can also do delays for certain types of operations with the proxy palette. Like this can actually be done for any operation on the chain, and so we can release information about how to do that in a more technical way. But also we should build these kind of things directly into the chain. And I think you're totally right. I agree with you, Ref. But let's keep on track here and see if we can get a question. Yeah, no, thank you, Ref. It was a good point. Point taken. Easy Trades, did you have something?
Yeah, so I've been watching, doing a little research, and I see that some work looks like going on behind the scenes with the Texas, our University of Texas in Austin. And if anybody has done any research, they would know that they're one of the best in the world in AI research and development, especially in distributed computing. So just wondering if you can say a few words as to what OTF and University of Texas and Austin might be working on together.
I bet you that's a question for Prav or James or Caro, who may have been behind that. It seems it's in Austin. I don't know if those guys want to come up on stage, but that's not what OTF is working on. So, or maybe it's an unknown contributor, or perhaps it just spun out organically in that university. I'm not sure. So I can't speak to that, Easy Trades. Don't know.
Yeah, I know Greg and a member of OTF. I can't remember his name, but they made a post. They were together. Looked like they were looking at office spaces together. But yeah, I haven't done too much further research on the topic.
Yeah, that's a Manifold Labs thing that Sammy said. Shout out to Manifold. Okay, more questions here. Maybe it's important that we do key swap commands so we can use the new ADDI to verify ownership. Yeah, things like that. Yes. Is this meeting recorded? Yes, it is. By various individuals, so they'll be pointed out. What is the status of OTF investigations? And who was involved? We don't know. We do not know who is involved. How do you know the hacker isn't still working here and ready to do this again? So I mean, like our response, has been about ensuring that there's just no entry point, even if they were to get an OTF badge to do anything, and that's just the way that most companies function. And so that's what we have been doing. And okay. Lots of people posting the live stream. That's fantastic. Thanks, Mars. Thanks, Yikes. Any more questions from the community here, guys? Just type them in the chat. If you're just curious about something, want us to zoom in, want to come up on stage, feel free. Or if your question got lost in the stack, just reply it. Okay, here we go. Ref is back on stage. This one, oh yeah, did you guys have a chat with Chamath? We spoke with Chamath. He's a cool guy. He seems interested in some of the primitives, and he seems like Bittensor adjacent, which is cool. Liked him as a person. The call didn't really specifically move to anything at all. We talked about different validators. We talked about transpiling, and how maybe Bittensor could be used to do transpiling. This kind of interesting idea for somebody out there. You could build a network that does kata to AMD transpiling and make that actually an endeavor that miners work on. It's a very, very promising and fruitful thing for the community to have that done properly. It's an unsolved problem. So he had brought that to us, which was really interesting. Very cool guy. He was also introducing us to a team that was doing validators and building effective validators. And I said, hey, look, we build a lot of those. So come and work with us and we'll see if that happens. But, in the end, it was a bit of a nothing burger and it was just a great conversation with a cool guy. Any thoughts on this hotkey that seems to be running cabals on many subnets? Very interesting. We'll have to look into that.
He registered one day after the chain came back out of isolation.
Okay, interesting.
It's about 500,000 Tau, and on subnet 2 or 4, they are doing some nasty stuff.
Okay, interesting. I think that we have our eyes on that. Let me just make sure. Bear with me, guys.
And one more thing, the main backers of that hotkey are some OG.
Yeah, no, this is I do not believe that this team is doing anything fishy. This is Polychain. So I can reach out to them and specifically ask them. Probably they're just having issues running their validator. So, but hey, like, let me ask them. Yeah. And nothing
Maybe
fishy.
there is
10x
a bug in
deployment.
your deployment or something.
Okay. Yeah, they're good guys. We can reach out to them. We'll figure that one out. Well, oopsie doopsie, 10x the volume of the value. I doubt that that's on purpose. But hey, let's find out.
Okay, I have a question about the restitution effort actually. So I'm not affected by. I'm curious on how it's going to work because, as far as I understand, some of the funds have been sent through Tau Bridge, and the bridge has been stopped. So
Yeah.
the funds are still locked at the bridge. So I
Yeah.
assume that the bridge operator is going to send back the money back to the account where they received it from, and that's it, right?
Well, actually, we are in work with the bridge owners. We know who they are, and they're working with us directly. And I want to talk a little bit about this, right? So this situation is very complex, very legal, very difficult. Um, you know, Even just us talking about it puts us at legal risk or something like that. It's difficult, and it requires a lot of coordination, and it takes a lot of trust, right? So what we're trying to do is, as this restitution organization that we're going to create from the community and do it on chain, right? Make that the focal point, so that we can properly distribute these funds to the right people. So technically, once the funds have been transferred, like code is law, like they're no longer yours. So we are trying to work with the parties involved to get it back to us so that we can give it out. Right? We don't want the funds. We just want to make sure the right people get it. So it is difficult. It's very likely that some exchanges will not work for us with that particular reason. They go, "Hey, who the hell are you?" Right? So part of the reason why we're on stage going, "Hey, this is our plan. Like, work with us. We're going to actually be contributing funds." Like myself, I will lose money in this endeavor, most certainly, and that's okay because I want people to be all right, and I'm doing this for Bittensor. So maybe we'll get them to give the funds to us so we can distribute them, and they'll be part of the contributions. Maybe not. Maybe they'll go straight back to the users. If that's the case, we'll have to know about that information so that we can make sure people aren't being like double paid by the restitution. Like there's a lot of edge cases here. There's a lot of things that we have to worry about, and we're doing our best to mobilize people to do it properly. And it will be difficult. That's why things take time. So that's why we want people to work with us and like really trust that we're trying our best.
Could we help you by exerting pressures on the exchange? So if there is an
I
exchange,
did say that, and I take that back.
doesn't-
It would be not helpful if just random community members started putting pressure on exchanges. So we have specific people that we know that are trained and paid to do that type of thing, and that's happening. So don't worry, don't blow up their DMs.
no,
There are
I'm,
people on that.
my point is like sometimes I'm selling Tau and I can do it on this exchange or the other exchange. If one of those exchanges is not working with you, then I don't want them to make any money on my commission, right? On the trading fees.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the information about them not being working, like not willing to work with you, could be made public. And then it could help me make a decision on where I'm trading.
Yes. We'll let people know who's working with us and who's not. But like,
Very good.
in all of this weeds, the thing to focus on is how can we help the people that were hurt, and emotions can get inflamed. It can get quite scary, right? All of that should be almost irrelevant to the pursuit that the people that are involved in trying to help the community at large, that's trying to help. That's irrelevant to us making sure that we help people, and we are going to try our best in the fastest way possible to help the people that were hurt. And like a lot of, it was a lot of just like random miners and stuff like that. It's small fish that didn't have much Tau that means a lot for them in their lives, right? I was saving up for a house, like, and now I'm broke, right? How much of a disaster? And I think we should think about those people, when we're acting here as a community.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ref. Appreciate you being on stage. Is there any more questions in here? Couldn't the hacker then steal the funds again? And no. Yeah, we're right. It's actually, actually, no, he is right. If they were returned directly to the same wallets, then the hacker could just send them again, which would be a pain in the ass. So for that reason alone, we're hoping that we can work with exchanges and try to evade that outcome. Okay. Hey, JT Dev.
Hey, I just have like some newbie questions as a dev who's just like recently heard about this ecosystem.
Yeah.
Specifically someone with like experience with smart contract. What are some subnets that would be worth checking out? Slash maybe participating in?
That's an interesting question. I mean, we do things pretty different here in Bittensor. Like, we don't build smart contracts. We build incentive mechanisms, which are like abstractions on top of a smart contract which runs on chain. People don't change the smart contract that runs on chain. They just change the way that the inputs to it. So, I mean, if you're a smart guy, you can understand smart contracts, you can understand that. I wouldn't try to just like niche yourself into only smart contracts because there's a bigger world, right? But someone saying Moonshot Tau, no, that's not what they were saying. Sorry. Is there any, maybe post in the channel if there's any stuff that's specifically working on smart contracts, but I actually can't think of anything off the top of my head, JT Dev. So do with that, with what you do with that what you want.
Cool, thank you.
No worries, man. All right, yeah, the documentary is coming out. That's going to be interesting. Okay. SN23 and SN2, FYI, guys. Great. Incentive mechanisms are a whole lot more interesting than smart contracts. I agree. They're abstracted incentive they're abstracted smart contracts. They're smart contracts that exist in the noosphere. Way cooler. The idea being you can provide full push ecosystem. Okay, yeah, guys. Not many questions here. Oh, here we go. Oh, thanks, Crado. Appreciate you. You guys and girls handled this nicely. Thank you so much. Why don't we end it here? That's a nice note. We peaked. Documentary dropping. Love y'all. This was awesome call. Thanks for the questions. Hope to work with everyone here in the coming weeks and months to help everybody who was affected and do the right thing for the community and the people involved. So yeah, cheers everyone. Thank you so much. Thanks Everett. Thanks Formalized. Ciao.